I still remember walking off that stage. I mean, I'm back there trying to get myself back together because I had a 3-year-old, and it was just that headspace that I was in. As an actor, you always want to get yourself in the right headspace. You want to feel that, and you try to draw from things in your own life. And I went there and just gave every bit of emotion I possibly had, and I walked off stage and I was sobbing. When we talk about the impact that theater has on you, especially as an actor, you get those roles where you can sink your teeth into them and just perform like that. That taught me how to compartmentalize, and you want to get there, but there is a line. You have to be in control of your character, and I had lost control.
It's the Civic Theater Show, presented by Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. I'm Jono. Neil Radtke and Clem Kollman are leading The Hobbit this month for Civic Youth Theater. Working with our young cast and crew made them reflect on how transformative theater can be for kids who haven't yet found their voice in school, and even for adults as they navigate the ups and downs of professional life. Actors, if you've got to be deeply emotional for a role, listen up. Neil tells us there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Neil and Clem had previously worked together as actors in a Civic Theater production, but as director and stage manager, as you'll hear momentarily, they sound like old friends, genuinely excited talking about the previous night's rehearsal for The Hobbit. Here's Clem Kollman and Neil Radtke.
We're living the dream, and we don't ever want to wake up. Living the dream, but time is running out. Tick tock.
But I told them about making that part of their pre-show check.
And I'll tell you, I wish I would have blocked the dwarf exit like they did it last night.
So funny.
But I'm like,
I was on headset. Cedar, there's one more.
Yeah, Thorin just left early, and all of a sudden they start running out, and then Fiona comes out, and she almost turned around, and then she was like, and then she goes running out the door. I go, man, if I would have blocked that, I don't know how to do that now. Oh, that was so funny. It's because Thorin left after 4 of them. I'm like, we still got more coming. And then Gandalf, well, he talks. They ran behind him, right? And he gets, so I'm like, okay, is that it, all of them? And then he leaves. I'm like, okay, is that it? Nope, here they come again. I'm like, oh no.
Then Fiona's like, wait, I can't go back into the kitchen.
Right,
I just got to keep going.
What can I do?
This seems to be a pattern, by the way, that I'm noticing with a lot of the pairings that I have on for the podcast. Yeah. A director who has been around Civic sometimes for decades. Yeah. When was your first time at our Civic Theater?
So I was in All My Sons with 15 years ago now, maybe.
Okay.
Probably I'd have to look, but yeah, it was All My Sons was my first show. I actually did back-to-back shows. I did Out of Order right afterwards.
So the pairings that I'm noticing are a seasoned veteran who started on our stage and then moved into directing or stage managing, paired with someone who has recently been in a lot of shows on stage as an actor, and then who's moving into the crew or into the booth as a stage manager. Do you want to keep doing stage managing? Are you hoping, Clem, to do some directing at some point?
Actually, yes. I never thought that I'd be cut out for stage managing because it just seemed so scary. But then TJ was like, no, I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you the ropes. So I obviously ASM'd Young Frankenstein. I was like, okay.
Assistant stage manager.
Yeah. I was like, I can do this.
Yes, you can. And I was there listening because I'm in the booth and on the headsets. And TJ handed the show over to you to call. And you're doing absolutely great.
Thank you, John.
Do you like it?
I do.
Do you think you'd like it better than or just different than acting?
I think I want to keep both in my life, but there's times that I want to stage manage. There's times I want to act. Like there's specific shows that I know that I would want to like be in, but for a lot of shows, especially if there's not one character, I'm specifically like, yeah, I really want to be them. I really like being behind the scenes.
What are those kind of roles that you know that you'd want to be in?
Oh my gosh. Usually it's when I read the script through the first time, I'll decide whether I find the character that I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one. Singing Telegram Man was one of those. Yeah. We first met in Lovesick, but that was one of those roles I was reading through the script. I'm like, okay, this is my kind of role.
Have you ever auditioned for a play with a specific role in mind, but then you were cast in another role?
I've usually been pretty general with my auditions. Like throughout all of high school, I would just audition and be like, yeah, just put me in. And it's only in recent years that I've started sort of envisioning it from a director point of view and not just saying, oh, I'd be anybody, but starting to think about, okay, if I was the director, who would I want to cast myself as? And I won't go for any role that I wouldn't want to cast myself as.
You're not pre-typecasting yourself to begin with.
And if you're stuck in a role that you wouldn't cast yourself as, then I sort of get this like imposter syndrome of, wait, is this character right for me? I've had a couple of those, but I usually grow into it.
You mentioned high school. When did you start in theater?
I started in theater in 3rd grade. My old elementary school used to do like a yearly musical, but it was like we'd rehearse once a week and then go up very underprepared, but it was so much fun. But I can't imagine that it seemed very put together from the audience. So I only actually really started doing real plays in like my sophomore year. I didn't do anything my freshman year of high school.
Do you remember your first time on stage as that sophomore in high school?
Yes. It was She Kills Monsters, and the acting was so much fun. But the thing that I really found in that was this sort of community in high school that I'd been missing out on. And I was like, I cannot stop doing this because these are my people.
Yes. I have seen many times, and you are part of the current crop, when I think of the group of younger people who have gotten involved in our shows, who have become friends, I've seen what appear to be deep friendships develop. Maybe they'll be lifelong friendships, we can hope.
Every show, the group just grows. It's like, I can't believe how little time I've known all of these people, because it's, especially in the midst of a show, you get tight-knit so fast. And I think we've seen that among the Hobbit cast too. Like from day one, they crowded around this tiny table while we were doing just like the paperwork signing because they all wanted to sit together.
Is this what community theater is for you too, Neil?
It absolutely is. I mean, I think one of the things, and you talk about building friendships fast, you're thrust into something where you are relying on everybody that's a part of that cast, right? And I know Clem and I we weren't ever on stage together in Lovesick, but we were part of the same cast. So we all have that vested interest in him killing in his role, and then me doing what I do, and then all the other people in the cast. And you just grow pretty close together when it comes to that. And I'm with you. I do notice that there's, these generations to come through. And when you're in a show with somebody, then you start looking to say, hey, you can audition for this. And then it just grows and grows and grows from there. And that's really the thing about community theater. And I've noticed that just here in directing The Hobbit is that there's so many people that are just willing to come in and help with everything around it. I told Raquel, the managing director, I said, it's like I've got the Avengers behind me of community theater, because every time I'm like, oh, I need to think of this. And someone's like, yeah, I got you covered. Perfect. And I'm able to just concentrate on the vision and the show and everything. And Clem as stage manager has been doing a heck of a job for me, because I've had, one thing for me, if you can take things off my plate where I don't have to think about them, then, you keep moving up the list of people the list of my people, so I'm really glad to have him on board for sure.
The Hobbit is, as you mentioned, is the show that we're producing now at Civic Theater. It's running January 16th through 18th, 2026 at Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette. And you're the director. You have talked briefly already about the fact that this is a kid show. This is a civic youth theater. You have been in adult plays. You have directed kids plays. What's the difference in your mind? Do you have a preference?
I did help direct. I was assistant director to Steve Martin in Bus Stop, and that's the only adult show and it was just sort of an assistant role. I do prefer directing youth. I think that there is a component of, and I'm a teacher as well. And so there's a big component of teaching and learning from the ground up the responsibilities of when you're in a cast. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's great. Yes, you build all this camaraderie. But at the end of the day, I tell them from the beginning, I say, we have a contract with the audience that they're going to come in and pay actual money to come watch us perform. We have a contract with them that we are going to do the absolute best show we possibly can do. And to, guide youth in that direction and understand that, this is something where, there's no, I don't even know how to describe it really, when you're standing up there and receiving the applause at the end and just looking around and how you've entertained people. I love bringing that to young people. I love giving them those moments where they can, and that's a lot of how I direct too. I'm very big on giving actors their moment. And you're going to see that a lot here in Hobbit as well. There are those moments where you're going to see certain characters get pulled out to do certain things, and the Civic stage is so great for that, because we are on the level. And if you're in the front row, you buckle up, because you're going to have a lot of stuff happen right in front of you as well.
Yeah, our theater, for anyone who might be listening from a longer distance, our theater it's small, about 155 seats. It's a thrust stage, so the seating is in kind of a U shape around the front part of the stage. So really, there's hardly a bad seat in the house.
I remember walking in my first time as an actor when I just auditioned for All My Sons, and walked in and I said, "Oh, this is neat." Because I had always, like in high school or things like that, when I had done performances, it had always been on the classic stage, right? When you're up like that. And I just remember being in that show and being on the level with the audience and just what a different experience it is as an actor. And then also for an audience member for shows that I've seen, it's such a great space for it. And like you said, there's not a bad seat in the house. I mean, you can even in those two seats you mentioned, you still have a great vantage point to see the show and just experience it as well.
I like to hear origin stories. So tell us your origin story in theater, Neil. You mentioned high school as well. Did your acting or theater, drama club, whatever, does it go back to high school or before?
It does. It goes back to high school where I actually, as a sophomore, and of course, teenager, you don't want to put yourself out there, stuff like that. So I actually signed up to be part of like a crew as a sophomore for the show at my school. And then the next year I decided to audition and just fell in love with it. And so I was in a show both my junior and senior years. And then I went to school here at Purdue and sort of got away from it a little bit. And I think I saw there was an audition at Civic. I saw it. And I had seen audition things come out before. And in fact, I think Civic was doing, the first thing that caught my eye was Civic did one of the shows that I did in high school. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I just couldn't make it work out. And then I came and auditioned. I didn't get cast in the first show that I auditioned for. It was the abridged Shakespeare show. And then the next one I auditioned for was All My Sons. And I got in and just, it's been such a great community and meeting new people. I mean, the amount of people that have just been a part of just my growth as an actor and as a director. I've learned a lot from just being around it. I mean, I thought I knew stuff, and then I would ask and learn new things and just develop that way. And it's just, and I love community theater. I love community theater. I love just, and I write plays too. And I've gotten on a kick here lately where I have written a couple of just sort of plays, I guess, that you would call love letters to community theater, just because of how important I think it is. And I was talking to the managing director, Raquel, and I said, in today's day and age, I think there's going to be a resurgence of live theater because you cannot duplicate it in your home. You can put the biggest big screens up and you can watch your movies and you can watch your sports events and things like that. But to be in a room as live acting is taking place, there's no substitute for that. There's nothing in today's technological world that people are going to be able to get that exact same experience. So I see live theater as having a great resurgence here in the next few years because it's a night out. It's something unique. It's something you can have a date night and everything else. It's like it is, and you can experience something while it's happening. Like the old circuses where people are doing flips and stuff in the air. You don't know what's going to happen on that stage. Mm-hmm. And they're all right there. And like I said, in Civic stage just makes it even more of an experience.
Yes.
Where you are there in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Clem, you're seeing this from a new angle now that you're involved as a stage manager and getting more involved on the crew side after having been an actor for several years. I like to think of community theater as a machine with those interlocking gears. And it's not just two gears, it can be 30 gears, all interlocking, all spinning those little ratchets on the edge of the wheels, helping to turn the next wheel. And when a live show goes well, it's because all those gears are turning simultaneously at just the right speeds. We're all supporting each other. That's the way that I feel about it. And you must be seeing this from a unique angle, having gotten involved on the crew side as one of the leaders.
There are so many more gears than I ever realized. Like, as an actor, you're so engrossed in your own performance that you hear the lights and sound as your cues. But getting up in that booth, you see how much is happening with every person that's up there, but also how many people as a stage manager, I just constantly have to be in contact with, especially as a new stage manager. But like, I've got so many people in my phone, in my email. I ask questions, they get back to me. And it's incredible how many different people have to put in work to make a show happen. And I think that's part of what makes Civic Theater shows so successful, is because we have those ends tied up. We have people that can answer those questions because we've got this solid group of people that know what they're doing.
Clem, how would you define, for somebody who's brand new to learning about the workings of theater, how would you define the role of stage manager? And how's that definition evolved now that you are a stage manager versus when you were just an actor on the
Right.
stage?
Sometimes it's
Good
like herding.
question.
It's like herding cats. Sometimes I guess.
Lately, it feels like running back and forth and back and forth. I guess before I was like, stage manager's driving the bus. I know you're up there behind the scenes, making sure everything stays on course. And that's sort of been the role that I've embodied. I just was never really aware of how much, rehearsal reports. I had no idea those were happening until Young Frankenstein teaches like, okay, we do this every day. I'm like, you do this every day? And now it's become second nature. But there's so much that was going on behind the scenes that, I mean,
These are detailed page-long reports that talk about what happened at rehearsal in every aspect. So-and-so was here. So-and-so handled this. We added this choreography in scene 3. We have these notes. We got to have the sound person remember this in scene 4. The lighting, we need this adjusted for scene 2. All of that is detail, and it tends to be a page or more for every single rehearsal.
Yeah.
And all that is you. That's the stage manager doing that.
I think ultimately my main responsibility is just staying aware of everything, just knowing the show, knowing what happens, responding to emails. That's important. Yeah, I think that it's a lot of just making sure that someone knows what's going on. The stakes feel high sometimes. You got to be like, okay, I have to make sure this happens. But it's also very rewarding to know that you have that responsibility and that sort of ownership of the show. Even though you're not on that stage, you can be proud of what's happening up there because you know the part you did to make it all come together.
Yes, indeed.
I've had a couple of crew before. They come up and ask me something. They go, "Oh wait, no, I just need to ask Clem." I'm like, "Thumbs up on that one, I guess." Yeah, I'll let Clem take care of it. But yeah, I mean, and the great part is about those reports, and I've noticed is that I'll say something to him like, "Hey, for sound, put a note in there about XYZ, or for lighting, put a note in there." And then all of a sudden that the lighting person or the sound person or whoever, or the props person is like, "Hey, I took care of that X thing." All right, this is fantastic. And it's all, and the common thread is everyone we have that's helping us out this year just loves
Invested.
they're so invested in this show. I mean, we have a few parents that are helping out behind the scenes and with props and set construction and things like that. But overall, it's just people that like to put a good show on, and they're doing it for the kids. And I'll tell you, when that set started coming together and we started coming in for rehearsals, those kids looked at it and they said, "Oh, this is neat." And then we started doing lights a little bit and sound a little bit, and all that stuff started to get added. And they're like, "Oh, this is a legit thing." Yeah.
That set, I mean, we're so lucky to have those set builders. It's a work of art.
Yeah, definitely. If you come to the show and you see it, you're going to be impressed by what we have. We have for you. There's some secrets to it and things like that you'll enjoy. I don't know if this is jumping the gun or not, but we actually have 6 kids on our cast that have never been in a civic show.
Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah.
So there's how many people in this cast?
13.
13. So just less than half of this cast are new to civic. How many of those 6 are new to acting?
Some of them are younger, so they may not have ever been in a show like this. They might have done
I know there's at least 2 off the top of my head that I've talked to that haven't done shows before, but it could be more.
Yeah, so for some, I think for those 6 that had never done anything at Civic, I think it was the first time they had come into the building. And I remember when we moved in there the first time, we gave them the tour and showed them where the dressing room was and looked around, and really they started to get a feeling for the space, and it's really neat to see. I mean, we had 50 kids audition for this. It was crazy, and I'm always impressed. This community, the youth talent that we have in this community is unbelievable. Raquel and I talked after the auditions and things, and we could have cast 4 shows. I mean, really, and had 4 really solid, great shows. That's how good everybody was that came in, and it was such a tough decision at the end of the day to choose this cast. But they're all excellent, and they're also really highly directable, which I really appreciate. Like when I'm giving notes, they are all of a sudden the next day, they're all doing what I asked them to do, and they're thinking about their characters and they're projecting, and just really, really cool stuff to see, because they want to put on a great show. And we're riding high from the last rehearsal because everything went so well, and we're getting ready to gear up and have a great run for sure.
You are a teacher, Neil.
I am.
How do you approach directing theater? What's the same and what's different from how you approach teaching in the classroom? You
Yeah.
teach eighth graders?
I do. I teach eighth graders U.S. history. It's my day job, I guess, as the case may be. And I said earlier, I mean, I do feel like a youth director's role, there is a lot of teaching that happens with it, because I think there's a right and a wrong way to go about things, right? And you need to give them and get them to understand the appreciation for what it is. And so in my classrooms, like I teach U.S. history. So right now we're going over the Bill of Rights. And one of the things I say is, if you don't know what your rights are, you won't know when they're being denied to you. And what I do is I show them, get them to understand and appreciate what we have with our First Amendment, with our Fourth Amendment and things like that. Because I say in other countries, the First Amendment doesn't exist. So the same thing, I transfer that over then into theater, where, listen, be appreciative and be happy for what we have, and then act like it. I use that as a dual thing with the kids. I said, listen, there are 5 people that want to be in your spot right now. Act like it, not only on, outside the stage, but on the stage. And they've embraced that a lot, because I use that phrase with them quite a bit, and they look at me and they nod and they come out and they just come out and kill it. Right. And that's what the connection there. I think being a teacher too, and way back in the day, I used to coach basketball as well. And there's a lot of motivation with young people too. And that's changed a little bit, obviously, throughout the years. But overall, if you're honest with them, right, and you're just telling them how it is and set a standard and earn their respect, right, they will achieve. And we saw that firsthand over the last few rehearsals, where they were challenged, and they said, this is, there's things that we are lacking, and we need to step up a little bit. And they took that, embraced it, and went to the moon. I mean, I couldn't stop smiling after the last rehearsal, because I was so proud of them. And I told them this. I said, I know what your potential is. I know how excellent all of you are. We need to see that. And the people that are paying actual money to come watch us perform, I said, they need to see that too.
The skills that you have professionally for helping a student who's having difficulty with the material, is not understanding it, is not taking it in, not performing as well in the classroom as you'd like them to. Is a similar skill set to helping an actor come up who's not getting the material, not delivering it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's one of those things where when I teach, I rarely give direct answers. I'll question them to the point where they can figure it out themselves. And I think Clem see this firsthand, where I don't give line reads. I don't walk up and say, you should say it like this. I'll tell them, for instance, there's one where they're on a mountain that's really cold. And I was telling an actor, I said, okay, so we're on the top of a mountain. You don't have a coat. What are we feeling like there? Oh, I'd probably be cold. I'm like, yeah. I said, so show that. And then they did, right? And so, and I tell them too at the beginning, and I think this is where being an actor, before being a stage manager, before being a director, it helps you so much. Like, I tell the kids I said, I'm an actor too. I'm going to direct you like I would like to be directed. And I'm going to give you a lot of leeway. I want you to own these characters. I'm not going to, tell you, move 3 steps this way. Now say it like this, move 3 steps that way. Do something, and I'll tell you if I like it or not. And I'll give them particular movements. I'll give them particular things to do. But at the end of the day, if you as an actor feel that your character is yours, your performance goes through the roof. And that's again, like how, if kids can figure that out on their own, if they get in the right mindset, then performances come with it. Whether I'm teaching them about something or whether I'm directing them on stage, both of those things go hand in hand.
I think Neil's youth direction, a lot of it, you can tell he's a teacher, because he's not just telling them what to do. And this is something Neil pointed out early in the rehearsal process too, is you're not just helping these kids put on a show, you are also sort of teaching them how to be actors and how to take ownership of their character and their role. And I see a lot of direction for adult shows is, okay, do this, do this. With the youth shows, Neil also inspires them. He's like, this is why we're doing it. This is what we're going for. And I think the kids, they're good listeners. Not that adults aren't, but I think that because they're in school, I think they're teachable, they're listening, and they're learning a lot more from this show because it's sort of in their developmental process as an actor. And it's way more different than I thought it would be. And I've learned a lot.
I like the perspective. Again, something I like to ask about the perspective of what can theater teach us generally? What can it teach an audience through the message of a play? But I also like to think about what have I learned that will affect me in my life through my participation in this particular performance or this particular, whether I'm the stage manager or sound designer or an actor. I'd like to think about how is this role going to inhabit me? There's always how is aspects of you as an actor going to come out in your character, right? I think that's fairly obvious. If you got to play a character who has something bad happen to them, well, you can draw on bad experiences from your own life and help to bring that out on stage. But for each of you, why don't we start with you, Neil? How has theater, in whether it's been actor, director, anything in theater, how has being involved in community theater influenced who you are as a person?
Wow. I appreciate theater so much because as a teacher, there were years there several years ago where the education was real tumultuous and theater became my outlet. It became my escape where I could leave everything that was outside the doors to the side and just embrace being a character and being able to step away from that. And I've always then had a deep appreciation for that and theater and especially civic theater, because civic theater was the place that was my sanctuary in many cases. And it will always hold a special place in my heart because of that. And as a person and as a teacher, just knowing that, and I actually, I started writing a lot more from that and just being a part of the Lafayette Playwright group that I'm in. Just people who share that great appreciation for just theater in general and what it can mean and what it can mean for so many people. And I'm seeing that this year. I mean, in this show, in The Hobbit, everyone that's around this show, I just look at them and I say, these are people that get it. These are people that understand what this is. We are doing more than just putting The Hobbit on. We are creating community. We are giving kids an opportunity to do something. And you said something earlier about how you had found your people. And I've said that before too. Sports is one thing, band is another thing, but theater is the absolute place. And I've had students come through my school that I've directed them kind of to get over there into civic theater and get involved, and they loved it. They found their people, like what you said, and that's their niche. I mean, that's where they can find their place, and that's what it can be for so many people. And it's kind of, you asked me that, and it's emotional for me to think about theater in that way, and civic theater especially, because during those times when being a teacher was tough, being able to be in a show and walk through the doors and not have to think about anything other than just performing and being a part of a great cast where people are encouraging was just so impactful for me. And I want to have the kids in our cast and the youth feel that same way, at the end of it.
What about for you, Clem?
Yeah, same huge answer. Theater has been like such a driving force in my life, finding my people in my sophomore year. But I was a really shy kid, and getting to speak with someone else's words on stage helped me be less scared of talking. I was quiet. And I think I've seen, like, my first show that I was in, I remember just getting the note over and over again. Clem, project. You need to project. Please project. And I finally did. I did it eventually. I got to being loud enough. Just like some of the kids in this cast we've had who started out real quiet, but the more you're like, okay, you got to project, they get louder and louder, and it's like, okay, there you go. But I was that same person. And then that was what it meant for me in high school, but also theater made me go back to college. Not back to college. I never went to college in the first place. I took 3 years off between high school and college. And it was while I was watching a play, Faustus, at Purdue Theater. I was like, I need this. I need this in my life. That was before I auditioned for Lovesick. I'd taken some serious time off for theater. And then I went back to Lovesick and I was like, okay, maybe I will study theater. Because I'd always thought that was sort of like okay, no one studies theater, but I'm studying econ too. But I decided to go ahead and keep pursuing that thing that makes me, it's just a necessary in my life. I can never be without theater, whether it's behind the scenes or just like even running the light board. I love doing that. Just keep me involved in some way because that's this little artistic outlet that I think a lot of us really need.
Yeah, I love that. Theater is necessary in our lives. It can make us into better people. The art that we make collectively can, in fact, change the world. But I'm also perfectly fine with this is just a night's entertainment. We need these artful escapes in today's world.
Absolutely. And that's why I love when, and the seasons that Civic puts together, they do a great job of putting plays that are just fun in there, along with ones that are more message driven and things. And in a community theater, that's important. You're supposed to be doing like, here's everything, right? You can't do all of one or all the other when it comes to plays with like a stronger message. But then sometimes, like you said, I want to go watch Young Frankenstein. I want to just laugh and have a good time and see the musical and just have fun with that. So there's definitely a room for all that. And, you get people in the door and just show them what live theater is. They'll keep coming back. And especially, like I said, I keep mentioning it, but the Civic stage is just such a unique thing for me, and what we can do in it and the types of shows we can put on and how you as an audience member just feel like you're there. You are in this room. They are not up there on some stage way away. You are experiencing this with them. And actually in The Hobbit, you're going to feel part of the show for sure because Bilbo breaks the fourth wall. And so because of that, this is something where the audience is invited to go on the journey with the cast and with the characters. And I embrace that part of it where
Let's define that. I like to do Theater 101 when things come up that maybe our audience doesn't know. The fourth wall. If you imagine, let me take it from television. If you're looking in somebody's room, they're in their house on TV, you can see three walls, the left wall, the back wall, the right wall. The fourth wall is our eyes. It's the camera. So in theater, the fourth wall is actually what?
Just talking to the audience.
Interacting with the audience.
Directly talking to the audience. And Bilbo does that, and that's through the script. Because he's the narrator oftentimes. And actually, there's times where he's in the scene and then all of a sudden just starts talking to the audience. And with that being the case, as I was directing, I said, well, this show's we're gonna welcome the audience in. And so keep the aisleways clear if you do come see the show, because you will get a chance to see some characters up close and personal. I like the way that The Hobbit uses the fourth wall breaks a lot because they don't feel out of place. Like sometimes you'll be watching a play or seeing something like, oh, it's breaking the fourth wall. Oh, they're just doing it because they're just trying to, oh, this will be a neat convention or whatever. The fourth wall breaks in the Hobbit are fun, and they're right at the right time, and it's who he is. He's this narrator that people are going to go on the journey with. I mean,
because people are used to Bilbo being this narrator character from the books, and so that was sort of their way of incorporating it into the play.
Neil, let's talk. You've mentioned being a playwright. I know that you have written at least 24 different plays.
Yeah.
Is it more than that by now?
Yeah.
Some of them are for 1, 2, or 3 actors. I know you've written a couple or a few that are anywhere from 7 to 14 actors or so. You've written comedy, drama, farce, satire, horror. You've pretty much every genre that's out there. One of your, I believe, early plays was a murder mystery dinner theater performed by your 8th grade students. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, 22 years ago, I went on a vacation with my wife and my father-in-law, and we went to one. And I thought to myself, we should do this at my school. And
you went to a middle school?
No, we went to just one of those ones you can go to.
Oh, like a dinner theater.
Yeah, down in Florida. Okay. And I said, this is kind of cool. So I sat down to write a show that would be appropriate for kids and do that. And we're 22, 23 years later, and now the 8th grade night of theater is one of the things, and I've written every one. So that's
so you wrote one, and this became an annual thing?
It did. Yeah, it became an annual thing. We've done it every year. We'll be doing another night of theater. So we changed it from Murder Mystery Dinner Theater to just Night of Theater.
Okay.
So that because now we're going into part 5 of There's Something in the Air. And what's cool is that this play, I wrote it 5 years ago. And then I've done part 2, part 3, part 4, and now part 5. And you don't really need to know the other ones to know what's going on. But the neat part is last year, somebody from the first play who played a certain character, played this character, Jillian, her sister played Jillian in part 4.
That's awesome.
And so they had this sort of lineage go through. And I have kids come that played those, like for the last 5 years, who played this character, and they like take pictures together and they do all this. And so they have that connection. And that's been super fun. Yeah, that was real early in my playwriting. And it was actually before I had gotten involved in Civic. I mean, I just was going off of, well, I think, and one of the things too, like you said, I write humor and things like that, is sometimes I'm like, well, I think this is funny. but the nice part is too, is because I write knowing the students, like I can put them in the right positions. And sometimes parents are like, boy, it's like that was written for my kid. Yeah, it kind of was.
It was written for your kid.
It kind of was, yeah. And you just put them in position to be most successful, and then they just glow. And again, these are kids who sometimes they'll come to Civic and do things because they just like, oh, this acting stuff is all right. Yeah.
Have you written for your night of theater something like, okay, I'm writing this for, say, John is a quiet kid, so I'm going to write this role that intentionally gets John out of his shell.
Yeah. I had, when we were doing Murder Mystery Dinner Theaters, I had a character called Roscoe who was the assistant detective. And like, he would just kind of follow around. He wouldn't have a ton of lines, but he'd have these little zingers that would come out every now and again. And so, you pick a kid like that who just has to remember that one time to come on and, oh, well, seems as though the shoe is on the other foot. And then everybody laughs and they just love that. And they just look all, yeah. So that was the character Roscoe, who was the assistant detective.
So cool.
Yeah. And it's, I actually had one of the murder mysteries I wrote was picked up and done in a school in North Carolina. I just had, let's see, one of my 10-minute plays was done in Australia recently, and also at West Texas University. It's called Scene. It's a Saw parody. So that was one that I wrote. But yeah,
I'm guessing that's not a youth theater show.
No, not that one. It was actually done on Civic Stage. It was in the 10-minute play festival. Yeah, and I'll tell you, you talk about, Civic theater and growing and things like that, and what I've learned from it, being an actor, being, directed, and has helped me become a better writer. I understand how theater works a little bit more, so that when I'm writing, it's like, okay, because I hate going back and looking at my early stuff, because I'm like, oh man, this needs some work. So I kind of leave those to the side and go with some of my newer stuff. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a trip down memory lane for sure.
Clem, actor, as we've talked about, new to stage managing. If I'm correct, there's at least one more thing that you do in theater. I believe you have stage combat experience.
Yeah.
So now you can guide actors when we need some combat skills like we do need in The Hobbit. How did you learn that stuff?
Mostly, well, a couple different people. My high school theater director, Benji, Civic Youth Director, we did fight choreography in a couple of our shows. She Kills Monsters, my first show, was pretty fight choreography heavy. I've also done some stuff with a former Purdue student, Bex. We did like this random fights of Shakespeare at a trunk or treat where we were being like Mercutio and Tybalt and just doing like little sword choreography and fight scenes for the kids. They loved it. Kids love Shakespeare. I didn't know. And then I did a couple classes actually I had Fiona in both of my classes, one of our dwarves in the Hobbit, and Molly was in the second one too. So I knew them going into this. But the main thing I did with fight choreography for this show, I'm like, we've got a lot of falls. Don't throw yourselves on the ground. Here's how to do a stage fall. Please be safe.
Yeah, I'd look over at Clem when they try it on their own first, and I was like, okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Stop.
They're reading through the scene for the first time ever, and they're like, "Oh, it says to fall." No.
And then it just kapoom to the ground, and Clem's like, "Okay, we're gonna work on that."
How about let's everybody learn a stage fall, just so.
So you could do it and still be safe.
Yeah, the look on his face when they just fall. He's like, "You're gonna hurt yourself." That was great.
But that's commitment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were ready to hit the ground. Well, I guess I gotta fall now. Oh no, stop.
Neil, tell me about a memorable acting role.
I would say was when I was in Out of Order. That one it's a British farce. It was the second show I ever did at Civic. And it was just high energy the entire time, where we are moving around, and it was comedic, and I loved it. The other one, so if we want to go the other direction, I played Howie in Rabbit Hole. And that, of course, is the one where it's an exploration of grief, where a husband and wife lost their 3-year-old who got hit by a car because he went out and chased the dog. And Steve Martin was my director for that. And I learned so much about directing just from him by being directed. And that was where I had done All My Sons, which was sort of I was just in one thing. And then I had done some comedic roles after that. And I wanted to stretch a little bit. And that one is memorable for a different reason, because at the time I was acting as Howie, I had a 3-year-old.
Wow.
And so like on the refrigerator, we used some of his drawings and like a couple of his toys that we had to leave around the thing. And there was one time where there's that scene where it gets taped over the whole thing, and it's real emotional. And I went backstage and I had gone too far. And Steve actually, it was during rehearsal, and Steve had to come to the backstage and go, he just kind of looked at me. I remember he said to me, he says, kind of went a little far, didn't you? I said, yeah. I said, I've never felt this before. Like as an actor, to have that first time where you've really gotten into it. Like I absolutely was completely into it. And Steve at that point told me, he says, yeah, he says, that's good. He says, but sometimes you want to back off just a little bit. And he was right. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and we're talking over 10 years ago. I still remember walking off that stage and they had to pull. I mean, I'm back there trying to get myself back together. And
why did you feel you went too far? Was it because
I think
it affected you so emotionally?
Because I had a 3-year-old, and it was just that headspace that I was in. And trying to, as an actor, you always want to get yourself in the right headspace. You want to, feel that, and you try to draw from things in your own life. And I went there and just gave every bit of emotion I possibly had. And I walked off stage, and it was like, and I was sobbing. And when we talk about the impact that theater has on you, especially as an actor, you get those roles where you can sink your teeth into them and just perform like that. Yeah, that is just an unbelievable feeling. And that one, like I said, that taught me how to sort of compartmentalize and not. Gosh, it's coming at me right now, even as I think about it, just where I was in that moment. And it taught me as an actor that, listen, you want to get there, you want to put on the performance, but there is a line. There's a line. If you go too far, it's bad, right?
Well, okay, I want to explore that again. I like coming at the perspective of, if you're not a theater person, or why is it bad to, in an emotional role like that? Why would a director say? Why would Steve have said, you maybe went a little bit I appreciate your authenticity, but you maybe went too far? Why is that? Why would that be?
Actors have to be in control.
Okay,
you have to be in control of your character, and I had lost control.
Okay,
and when you lose control on stage, it doesn't hit as hard, right? You have to be in control of your character at all points. And when I went too far, and Neil started to come out on stage rather than Howie, that you lose it, right? I have to be Howie on stage.
Is that breaking the fourth wall, but not in the right way?
Right. Yeah. A lot of ways.
Like, would Steve say that the audience now sees that it's Neil, not Howie?
Yeah. Yeah. They'll see that this,
so rather than feeling the emotion, they might feel uncomfortable?
Yes, exactly.
Uncomfortable in the wrong way. There's many shades of that.
That's a great way to put it, because I think he said something extremely similar to that to me when he was explaining to me what it was. And I even tell my youth all the time too, I say, listen, when you come on stage, you stop being Susie and Johnny. You are these characters. When you are in view of the audience, you cannot show yourself, right? But then, like in the aspect of what I was talking about there, you also have to have control of that alternate self. And I didn't. I lost it. And that moment helped me grow more as an actor than I think any other singular moment since. And I was better as an actor after it, because I did have that understanding of what control of a character is. And I've played some dramatic roles since then, and always have that in the back of my mind. Yeah, I will. Like I said, I can close my eyes and just remember that moment like I did it yesterday, like I just walked off stage right now. And so as far as memorable goes, like performance-wise, loved Out of Order, loved doing the British farce, loved being, running around and being silly and goofy. But as far as just true dig my teeth in drama, Loved doing Rabbit Hole, and especially with Steve as my director, and learning as much as I did, and just about myself as an actor, and learning about being a director too.
Yeah, that's a powerful story.
Clem, before I ask you the same question, I just want to follow up with you, Neil. Someone told me, and it may have been one of these plays, that there was one time where you were really, really sick and still had to perform.
That was out of order.
That was out of order?
That is where we had, I think the shows were at 7 then, right?
Okay.
At 2:30, if you would have told me I was going to perform that night, I would have told you there's no chance I'm going to be able to perform. I think my temp was like 101 or 2 or something like that.
Okay, so you had 100+ temperature, so you got a fever.
And I was just, I was incapacitated.
And out of order is a farce. So
and I'm running around, and I'm coming in and out of windows, and I am just, and so I got there, and I am just like, I drank orange juice like there was going out of style, and I am highly medicated on Dayquil or whatever it was. And I come out on stage, and I used every bit of energy I had. And then when I left stage, it was basically like me almost hitting the floor. And there was a time where I was standing behind a door and just like, ugh. And just like groaning to myself. And then the door has to open and I have to perform. And I just still remember, like, the door opens, light hits me. I'm like, okay, here we go. And off I went. And then when I got backstage, and I like I said, at 2:30 that day, if you would have told me I was going to perform, I said, there's absolutely no chance. And then I just gutted that performance out.
Crazy.
And it is because there's too many people counting on you.
Yeah, well, this is where people don't realize community theater, at least one our size. I don't know if this is true in community theaters in towns that are larger, but we don't have understudies. No. We don't have backup people.
No, and that's where theater is one of those things where even in sports, if you have a guy that's injured, you can still play the game and still win the game. You got somebody out with your show's canceled.
Yeah.
At that point.
We have had to, during the pandemic is when I remember this, we have had to cancel performances due to illness.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Okay, Clem, let's finish with you. Can you think of a moment, either a favorite performance or a theater moment that is memorable to you, and why is it memorable to you?
There are so many, and I've already talked about Lovesick, so I was trying not to use that one. But it's the thing that comes to mind is I did not do musicals in high school. I was in plays. I was like, okay, I'll leave the musicals for the choir kids. And then Singing Telegram Man comes along, and I really want this role, and I have to sing. This is not a musical. I'm the only person that has to sing. I think singing in front of people is terrifying. I'm not scared at an audition unless I have to sing, and then I'm shaking. And so I show up at rehearsal. I'm like, okay, do I have to do the song today? He's like, okay, we can skip it for now. I go home. I learn the song. He's like, okay, you ready to do it? And so I did it. I sang. And ever since, I was in the prom ensemble, Urinetown, Officer Barrel. I think I really learned a lot from that one. I had a really fun time with Urinetown. That's another highlight. But now, even behind the scenes of musicals, I feel like I've had a new appreciation for getting into that part of the theater world. And so Lovesick was kind of what dragged me in.
Clem Kollman and Neil Radtke. Civic Youth Theater is presenting The Hobbit in mid-January 2026. It's sold out, but coming up next is The Revolutionists, which will run from February 12th through the 21st, 2026. Directed by Raquel Lopez, tickets are available now for The Revolutionists on our website, LafayetteCivic.org. Music for this podcast is licensed by Audio. That's AUDIIO.com. I'm John O. Thanks for listening. The Civic Theater Show is presented by Civic Theater of Greater Lafayette, Indiana. See yourself here.